and get as much downloadable resources of repairing stuff as I could online. Here's my conundrum. You can get gigs and gigs of information on PDFs on how to repair stuff, how to build stuff. But by the time you print it out, this whole room's full of paper, and then if you're going to have an EMP, did you build a small Faraday cage to keep your memory sticks in? But then, do you have a computer? And I mean, how big does your Faraday cage need to be? And how many solar panels and all backups and generators and things do you even have where you could get the information off the stick? So then it comes down to like, what's the most important stuff for you to tweak your skill set to be the very best that you can to solve other problems of repair from things that are breaking down and will break down that there'll be no repair parts for. Hemp Lucid has been a leader in the hemp industry space for nearly 5 years. And Hemp Lucid has been a supporter of the sun community for over 8 years now. Grand Solar Minimum. Hemp Lucid credits part of their awakening and a motivation for starting their company, the cycles of reset through history based on solar activity. I've gotten to know the founders of Hemp Lucid over the years. They even visited me out here on my farm. I'm impressed with the vision for the company. They have a roadmap and a definite plan moving forward. And as we descend deeper into this Grand Solar Minimum, it's going to be vital for people to start taking holistic products that will help support a healthy body and mind through this transition. Hemp Lucid sells USDA organic products available in tinctures, topicals, edibles, capsules. They also offer pet products for your furry friends. And Hemp Lucid is offering the Adapt 2030 community up to 60% off products for Black Friday starting November 14th through the 30th. So visit hemplucid.com, and if you're not sure where to start, try their product finder quiz for helpful recommendations based on your needs and the amount that works for you. hemplucid.com.
Hello and welcome back to Raised by Giants, where we talk all things spirituality. I'm Ryder Lee. Tonight we have special guest David DuByne from Adapt 2030. He discusses energetic changes on Earth as the sun repeats its 400-year cycle of low activity, affecting global crop production and the economy and everyone on our planet, with a timeline for what you can expect from now to 2023 as society resets. Welcome, David. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing, brother?
Yeah, thanks for the kind intro. And I think it's more of a once in a 2,000-year cycle this time.
But
they're comfortable. That's why they're doing it. They're comfortable.
Yeah, it comes down to a comfortability and a fear, right? And a fear of being different, a fear of being looked at different, a fear of being laughed at, a fear of being made fun of, a fear of embarrassment. But they don't realize if they hold their ground and they stand with integrity and they do what they say that they're going to do, then it's going to, work out better for them if unless they go along with everybody else. It's the 100th, monkey effect, or whatever the name of that whole thing is. Monkey see, monkey do. And they've been really good at doing that, and creating our culture and shepherding people in a certain direction that they want them to go into an illusionary reality, instead of making your own and creating your own timeline and creating your own reality. They want you grouped in to the think tank of the global consciousness of the planet. And once you step out of that box and you do something different, then you're ridiculed, your character assassinated. It was like what we were talking about before we started the show, right? They'll pick out one thing that you might have said that is, crazy conspiratorial, or something that is not accepted by the majority, and then they blast that everywhere to discredit you, when 99% of everything that you were saying was very solid and very truthful. They'll pick out that one thing that you said 2, 3, 4 years ago, or even last week, and discredit you with that. It's unbelievable. It's psychological warfare. That's how they do it. It's all a psychological game. and they've got it down to a T, and in the way that they execute it and plan it, it's so concise and precise, and it gets very overwhelming to the point that we think that there's absolutely nothing that we can do. So we just end up complying with everything that they want. You know, when we don't realize that if we stand up and we do something and we hold our ground, that's going to create a ripple effect, just like the negativity and fear creates a ripple effect. You know, once one person stands up and starts talking about these things and bringing out truth, that's going to help a lot of other people too, right? We just don't give up. You know, we just don't stop. We just don't put down the sword. We keep pushing through, because you never know who you're going to affect or who you're going to change with your thoughts, ideas, and beliefs when you hold and when you stand your ground, no matter what, no matter the opposition, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how negative things might be, or who thinks what about you, or whoever has any kind of perception about you, because everyone has a different perception. You know, you have a different perception. I have a different perception. We all have different things happening in our life, right? We all have different beliefs. You know, you were raised differently than me. You're from a different background than me. You know, but that doesn't mean that people can't get along and put aside our differences, but they've put the attention on our differences instead of our similarities. And that's how they create so much division and so much confusion. And not only that, they feed certain parts of the country different information than other parts of the country, so no one can ever be on the same page about anything. Sorry, I went on a little rant there.
No, that's good. You know, I was thinking this is a compliment. I don't never, Ryder, do you even have a box? Because you say you step out the box. I don't even know if you had a box to begin with to step outside. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's going to be stepping out of the box during this change. That's the thing that's going to, you know, make the elites fear a lot, is because when people step outside that box and they're no longer comfortable, they're going to behave way differently. This comes back into the resonant field here. You can do something with your body, or you can do something with your mind. And see, this is what scares elite the most. Once you understand the power of your mind during this transition cycle and change, as these magnetic and electromagnetic changes are happening across the solar system, they're going to be laid bare for all to see. And once you understand that and you use your mind and say, we don't accept this, control this reality on top of it, we're able to bend it to say, make that thing poof, go away in the mind. And enough people are thinking it, since we're in a faster vibratory state, that thing can be pushed down. It's a lower energy anyway, that's kind of sinking out of our consciousness. Because if you follow the yuga cycles around, again, there's an enormous amount of great information from, you know, different cradles of civilization. And then if you go into the Indian Vedic text, then, you know, stories going back 2,500 years. And then you look at the Harappa Valley and Indus Valley and all these cradles of civilization 4,500 years ago. And it's a vast amount of information about when we go around a cycle, and this just goes right along with where we sit in the solar system energetically, as well as the spiral arm of our galaxy. Like, you know, you're going back 4,500 years in time, but the peoples of the time had mapped out the cycles of when we're in a higher energetic area of this, of the spiral arm of our galaxy on a cycle as well. You know, we're stars are, and solar systems are in orbits around themselves as well, albeit at a slower rate. And how is it that Mayans even had 220 million year cycles mapped out above and below the ecliptic? One full time around the entire galaxy was 220 million years. So in 220 million years from today, we will sit with our planet in the solar system in the exact same place. So who's mapping these kind of cycles and knew what was going on? But one thing that's always talked about is, as these cycles are progressing in faster vibratory energy in areas of space, we are now transiting through and began entering the new age of Aquarius. You know, whether it's in Indian Vedic text or modern astrology, and astronomy and astrology used to be the same science. They just broke them apart a couple hundred years ago. But until that point, astronomy and astrology were always connected, because they understood more deeper levels of energetics, electrical flow, changes in electromagnetism that affect the way the human perceives reality, built into the way we're transiting around this, the space that we're going in our spiral arm here. as we progress out of this, we're heading out of the Kali Yuga, which is super dark, like iron heavy energies. And I encourage everybody to look at the Yuga cycles. We are entering into something called the Para Yuga. And each day is energetically and more vibrationally higher as we are finally coming up to the Satya Yuga, which is where you can almost manifest instantly. Like the one greatest movie I saw about this instant manifestation capability, which has been referenced time and time and time and time again at the top of the Yuga cycles, is this movie called Green Lantern, where this guy can think something and in a second it appears, like a fraction of a second. This is the capabilities we have when we reach this highest point. But then, we all understand that we're all interconnected. The Earth's interconnected with us and everything. And you're looking through an energy field basically that vibrates faster, called gases. And we're all connected through the energy field. All souls are all connected. So there's, at that point where there's instant manifestation capability, you're at a much higher realization level of how it all works together. But we just entered out and exited out of the Iron Age. But you got to realize what had gone on for the last 1,000 or so or 2,000 years of just like the deepest centralized control where, you could burn people if they didn't believe. And that was sanctioned by church and government to do all these things. I mean, the most horrific crimes in the last 1,000 years were committed by some of these same entities. And, we're going faster each day vibrationally. So we're rising out of the soup, if you will. So think of a piece of lead, and that's the color of like this Kali Yuga, is a dark lead. And you're vibrating faster, almost like a hummingbird starting to come out of that. Like how dense is the lead compared to something moving much faster like a hummingbird? That's the change we're experiencing. That's the best way I can describe it, is now use the mind to say, we don't want any more of that lead energy, get it out, because we can, the vibrational frequency of your mind in this unified energy field is moving faster. So the result is happening faster. So millions of people doing it at the same time saying, this is no longer serving us. This is keeping us down. This is not allowing us to spiritually evolve. This needs to go away out of our frequency of even seeing it. And imagine millions of people coming on that frequency level. Forget your arms and legs moving to make change. What about just using your mind in mass? This is what's terrifying, I think. And I encourage you to look at all of the ancients talking about the cycles and the energy they provide into the human. Now, if you were the iron guys down there, the lead guys, and you still wanted to maintain control, but you got to control all the hummingbirds now. How are you going to do that? And then, it's going to get even faster.
The only issue that I see here, David, is a bunch of people, and if that happens and we get to that peak energetic point where we will be able to manifest things instantly, if people don't have control of their mind and they haven't reprogrammed their subconscious and unconscious mind, then
that would be a disaster.
Yep.
But that's 10,000 years from now when you come to the top of that next cycle. 10,000 years is a lot of time for people to, like you say, get into that centered spot, because each generation will understand it a little bit better. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, go. That's fine. That's just where I see a lot of chaos, and because a lot of people can't really even handle their manifestations now, and we're not we're not able to manifest things. I mean, some people can do it instantly, but it's very difficult because, again, you have to go in and reprogram your entire mind and get out all of the nonsense that's been programmed in there through society, through TV, through school, through all of the lies that's been told to us for decades. But that is our superpower, and that is something that the elites and the controllers of this reality do not want us to know, is how powerful we are. Our brains are like a supercomputer, right? And they don't want us to tap into that. And if a bunch of different supercomputers all come together, then we could potentially be unstoppable on many fronts. And that's a big reason why they do so much of the division and getting people fighting each other with, the political, the racial, the information control in general, right? Because they don't want everybody on the same page. Because if we're all on the same page and we decide that we don't want this reality anymore and that it's keeping us very low on the totem pole, then we have the ability to do something about it if we all come together. But again, will that be allowed to happen? I really don't know. And that's the big question, right? It is the controllers and the manipulators of our reality going to try and hijack this increase of consciousness that's going to wash over the planet or not? Right? That's my thought on that. Is, do they have the ability? Can they? Will they? Will we let them? Is the question.
Maybe it's a basic survival instinct that's in all of us that's been suppressed into not being a basic survival instinct, but maybe at the deepest level, it'll just whoosh, turn on again. Because, they kept the comfortable zone is where people are not into action. The reason that people go to school and, you referenced being in the box is, people have this pattern of, going from this, learning this, getting a job and staying in that whole flow. So a society continues to work in the same fashion, cogs in a wheel, if you will, because it's comfortable. And you got to think about the humans going back through some of these cycles I talk about. I mean, Earth's population has been whacked down so many times to just under 100 million people. We've had some serious bottlenecks in human population on this planet, at least 3 very good ones that have knocked population down to almost nothing. But each time it comes back, I mean, it's like the bison buffalo out. And if you wouldn't have known, if you look at a long-term trend of the bison population in the Western United States over, say, a 2 million year period, that little knockout of where, when they came in 1849, people chasing the gold, and, they wiped out the buffalo down to like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 or even less, 10,000. Over a 2 million year timeline, they would rebound once humans are gone. You would barely even see, I don't even know if it would be registerable, that little blip on time over that period of a time. If you're talking about the last 200 years, there's going to be a gigantic dip. But if you're talking about super long-term trends, you might see a little blip in there, but go another million years out when they get those planes back and the buffalo populations are over 2, 3, 4 million again. It would just be a fraction and segment of time. And I was going somewhere with a thought, but I forgot it because I was trying to get deep on it. But that's what happened. Oh, but that's all about the stability, right? The safety of things. So people aren't going to be in any sort of action unless. But survival is our main thing, because since we've been knocked down with the population several times in the past, it's sort of a survival technique for us as well. Populations over a longer term time frame. I mean, we don't even know the records are so terrible going back anything post 3,500, 4,000 years ago. It's near impossible to find anything except around China and maybe some of the Central Asia or African records. I mean, beyond that, it's abysmal what's happened in our global past, hardly known. But some more recent events show that, yeah, people got knocked out at the knees of the global population. So just knowing that it wouldn't have happened during this 10,000 years of non-glacial activity, because we're in an interglacial right now. It's 10,000 years of warmth. Generally, this planet's locked in ice for 90,000 years. They get you forget that too. This 10,000 years is very, very, very special. We get it once every 90,000 years. So what happened to the prior interglacial, 110, 118,000 years ago, when people were just the same as us? Well, they didn't sit around for 10,000 years and not do anything. But where were they on the Yuga cycle going around as well? Were they at the bottom trying to climb out, or were they already halfway up at the top? And because vibrationally, if you were up higher on that Yuga cycle, you wouldn't be burning stuff. You wouldn't be leaving metal all over the place. You'd be doing it in a different fashion, where your trace on what we consider civilization, quote unquote, because you got to have metal and clunky machines and things, that wouldn't even be an option back then. Not even an option. You wouldn't need it. It just wouldn't even make sense that you could manifest something pretty quick and your whole society could think together and create things. Fossil burning, digging stuff would make no sense. Plus you're harming the earth, which would be a whole different thing. They'd be so in tune with that as well. Like, Tesla talks about the ether and all this. Well, why would you destroy the very energy field that creates all life and holds it together? Why would you start destroying that and then mess up the ether, if you will, when you used to have a permanent power supply coming from that? Like, that's the kind of thought that would be at the top of the cycle. We're programmed to be comfortable. And when it comes to cataclysm, there's always some sort of like base, just carnal and animal or whatever base instincts that are in there to locked in place to keep you alive. That's why comfort's so hard to break people out of it. You know how long it's been since people in the world have been this comfortable? Never. So the more comfortable they get, the less they want change, because through all of Earth's history, it's been about you rise up a little bit, cataclysm. You rise up a little bit, cataclysm. You rise up a little bit, famine. So to be comfortable, nobody wants to rock that boat ever, because most of history is uncomfortable. And maybe that's where we're resonating on that base pattern where comfort is survival. And that is the base survival mechanism, is survival. So if comfort is survival, everybody's in that survival mode in comfort, versus stepping out of the box, which we put ourselves into a little bit different situation. But, most people love the comfort. It's comfortable and it's survival. And nobody's going to be there in a few years. So why? This is going to get ripped out from everybody. The rug's going to get pulled. And I'm not laughing at that, but I'm just like envisioning a box full of like cartoons dropping out. Like they're going to turn into cartoon characters being so freaked out when it happens.
Yeah, I agree, unfortunately. And you spoke about survival there. So what would you recommend? I know that you talk about it all the time on your show, but what would you recommend for people to do to survive the next decade? I know there's fundamental things like, grow your own food, stock up with, what you can, try and be out of big cities as much as possible for whenever these inevitable events happen. But what's something that, because I've had people comment on my videos when I've kind of delved into this topic a little bit, and they have questions like, should I buy solar panels? Should I be stocking up on, methane, all of these kinds of things. And I've been waiting for this interview to kind of ask you this question. And what's the most valuable thing that someone could do right now to try and prepare? I mean, we know that we're already far into this, right? And if you're not prepared already somewhat, then you're getting a late jump, right? You're late to the party. But let's say someone is just now hearing this and didn't know anything about anything that we've discussed here today, David. What's something that they can do to try and get prepared for what's about to happen?
To put your mind in the correct space first, to understand these changes are going to happen. They're here, they're real, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world, because I think right now there's more opportunity than there ever has been in human history, because there's more people that will need more services during these changes than ever has in human history. So I'm coming from that mind frame. So jack of all trades is going to be more of a required thing, just like our grandparents. Man, everybody knew how to fix everything on the farm. Now we have specialists, which is also build out your skill set. So you mentioned solar panels. Okay, I could install the solar panels, have them at my house, but if it breaks, I don't know how to fix it. Like if you're going to be a specialist, if you're going to own solar panels, understand how to fix, repair, tweak, get some batteries from something else and make it fit for storage of the electricity, get some, inverters, whatever you need to be an expert of that. So, because see, a lot of stuff's going to break and we're not going to have repair parts anymore. So to be an expert, and that's what I mean, jack of all trades is great for most of the basic stuff like woodworking, but I'm going to go out and build some stuff after we're done with the interview here. I'm trying to work on my woodworking skills right now, knowing how important it is for woodworking and stuff that you can build with wood to have your functionality in a place or repair something with good measurements. It's kind of a mind exercise too. But for example, for solar panels, I would learn how to repair them. Take classes, all that stuff's free. You can get it either online and get as much downloadable resources of repairing stuff as I could online. Here's my conundrum. You can get gigs and gigs of information on PDFs on how to repair stuff, how to build stuff. But by the time you print it out, this whole room's full of paper, and then if you're going to have an EMP, did you build a small Faraday cage to keep your memory sticks in? But then, do you have a computer? And I mean, how big does your Faraday cage need to be? And how many solar panels and all backups and generators and things do you even have where you could get the information off the stick? So then it comes down to like, what's the most important stuff for you to tweak your skill set to be the very best that you can to solve other problems of repair? from things that are breaking down and will break down that there'll be no repair parts for. Because if, let's say you do solar and you know how to repair everything and you've just seen it up, down, umpteen times, you're welcome in every community. There will never be a community ever that will turn you away in the future when they all turn to solar and all these things. You're welcome in any, how many people have solar across the planet now in different countries? Oh my gosh, you'd be welcome in any town that has a power grid down on a permanent level. We're talking about some of these things, grid down for a year. And people got solar and you know how to repair everything. Are you kidding me? These are the targeted skills that are going to be survival. And the water. Okay, well, are you a water catchment expert? Are you going to put it in the pipes? You're going to put it in a pond? You're going to put it in catchment tanks? Like, where are you going to get tanks from? How are you going to run? What angle do you need? Okay, you're going to generate electricity from that. Where can we get a hydro motor? And okay, gravity. I mean, how many feet up do we need push for pull down on the head on the hill there? If you're becoming an expert at some water storage techniques and things like this, generating electricity from water, somebody else may have the electrical skill. So if you find an alternator on somebody's car, you can tweak it and like build a pipe around it so it spins and you create electricity in the alternator to charge stuff. All right, if you got the skill set for the water, I guarantee somebody else got the electrical skill to put something on there so you guys can get electric made on a micro hydro. So it's all about targeting and tweaking the skill sets, because I want somebody who can pretty much do everything. And that's what I'm trying to teach myself, is how to do everything, but become expert at something. So you're the number one mind in that thing. Wherever you go, you're always welcome, because an expert in something of repair or build out at this juncture, oh my gosh. And medicine would be my last thing. You know, I'm taking this Stop the Bleed class. We're using tourniquets for big injuries, you know, something on the EMT side of just some first responder type thing. Can you stitch anybody up? I got this stitch kit here. You can buy them online, like $50, and it's replicates skin, and they give you all the sutures, and they got different things you can use in there to cut. Throw some sand in it and see how clean you can get it before you stitch it up. Just an enormous amount. Everybody's going to need to know basic medicine. And, you know, growing food, Ryder, you brought up a great point. One of the skills we're all going to have is growing food, period. You're going to have to grow it. It's going to be like your grandparents' day. Get a root cellar up. It's just going to be part of your life. So enjoy it, embrace it, and make the best food you can possibly make ever. That is going to feed and nourish so many people that they will be thankful at the end of the meal, dancing on the table, because that food was so good that you served them. If you go in with that mind frame, you're going to love going out to pick the apples off the tree, or go get whatever you can for lettuce or the beets or the okra, or we're going to can some beans. We're going to put the tomatoes up for sauce. You're going to love what you do. And people are going to appreciate it. And that's just going to resonate through everything you do. Just embrace the changes that are coming. And can you take that tree, the bark, the flower, the root, or whatever, and turn it into a medicine? And so this is another thing I'm trying to delve into, is the plants on my property, understanding in each month of each season, what's edible, what's coming in, what fruits, what flowers, what medicines are available from natural plant life to turn something in. My easiest example, marigolds. Marigold heads, you know, the colorful orange and yellow, or sometimes all bright orange, light orange, whatever the heads. If you boil that down, you can make an antibiotic tincture with it. And now you start to think, not only is it an insect repellent, but I'm growing my own medicine and an antibiotic form and fashion, which is going to be a big thing, because if people are working on the farm, they're going to cut their hands, feet, and they're going to have many more like smaller injuries. But, you know, sometimes a cut on your hand will just get out of control. It'll get a little infected and you're like, oh, drop some rubbing alcohol on it. But what if you don't have rubbing alcohol? You're going to have to start thinking out of the box, either getting your own still up so you can, you know, do a batch and then keep the heads and tails off that, and then triple refine it to something like isopropyl rubbing alcohol and make your own medicine from distilling. But then you'll also have the alcohol during that time, like apple schnapps, peach schnapps, pear schnapps, plum schnapps, 40%. I mean, alcohol is always a tradable. So again, if there's a laser niche, like I don't know how to do it, I've watched a few other people. I like the idea. I'll play with it. Will I be an expert in distilling? No. But I'll have the skill of somebody else is doing it, that I could jump in with a little tiny bit of knowledge going, oh, hey, I'll get those screws for you. Oh, let's see. Oh, let's scrape that off. Well, what temperature do we need to set the burner at? That kind of stuff. Let the expert tweak it to where, you know, they know where they're going to cut the heads and tail and get the drinkables versus what you want to turn into rubbing alcohol. The same thing, if you're woodworking, do you have enough knowledge to even draw a straight line with a ruler or something on a piece of wood so somebody else can cut it after you mark it and measure it. You know, screw sizes and things. I mean, if you know the basics of that, you can jump in anywhere. Everybody would love to help. That's what I mean by being a jack of all trades in a lot of things, to understand basics, to help others who are better. But at the same time, you becoming an expert in just one thing, just one. But just kind of understand the other ones, from basic medicine to growing your own food and being a generalist around that can help repair things. Because you got to think about it, they did barn raising parties. They still do, the Amish farm down here. Everybody takes part, even the littlest of kids, they get there and they help. Everybody understands how to build a barn. That's how they get it done so fast when you have a barn raising party, because everybody's done it the whole time and it's super fast. I mean, you and I would take years to do it, or months, and they're up there in the afternoon and finished, you know. And you would be welcome if you knew how to do any of the woodwork or the tools or cut, saw, anything, you would have been welcome. Even cleaning up. Hey, man, where does this hammer go? Where does this, learn the tools, whatever. So anyway, I'm gonna, you know, there's a lot of things to think about going forward, but I would leave it at that. Be a generalist to understand jack of all trades for all the basics, but be an expert in one of them, and one that's going to count, one that's going to bring a community forward. So for me, it's always about creating fertilizers out of something. Algae, you know, if you know algae, and this is one of my things, everybody got to know this too. You got to know this one. Algae that grows in every pond is some of the best fertilizer on the planet. So at the end of the year, like we got some algae down here at this pond about at the end of the driveway. I'm going to go start pulling that off, because A, it's suffocating the fish, but B, it burns way hotter than wood. I mean, super way hotter than wood. It's got the oil in it. That's why it floats on the water. It's already got natural oil. Ever heard of algae biodiesel before? You can create fuels from that if you got a press. But you can just squeeze it up into a charcoal briquette size and burn it, and will it ever get hot? It'll get way hotter than the wood. So you can use it as a fuel, you can use it as a fertilizer. And I guess that's where I would stop is, are you an expert enough to give something back to the community that will keep them alive and enhance their life, to bring them back to comfort? Because see, that's the whole trick. Everybody got stuck on comfort. We're so comfortable, we're not willing to accept change, and it's here, and the change is going to be so stark and so fast and so incredibly outside of what most people's comprehension is, that they're going to want to swing back into comfort again. And if you can help them do that, you'll be very valuable and welcome into every community you'll ever pass through.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful advice, David. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
That makes sense, though. I mean, does that make sense?
100%. I mean, that's where it's really going to be at. And the problem and the issue is that they've gotten rid of all the trade schools. Like, there's no shop class in high school anymore. There's very few trade schools available. So a lot of people don't know how to do this anymore. They've been so used, again, to the comfortability of calling someone to come fix all of their things. And I'm guilty of that too. Like, I don't know how to fix a lot of things, you know, but I have the awareness that we've taken that to the very far extreme, you know, and we've made a lot of people useless idiots. And I don't mean that in a degrading term or a slanderous way, but it's the truth. You know, we've taken, you know, everyone that can fix things and do wood shop and the you know, plumbers, like people like that, we've taken them for granted. And there's not enough people because they stopped pushing the traits. You know, they stopped making schools for people to learn how to do those things, the natural survival skills. You know, they've completely cut that out of our everyday society and got us locked into this social kind of system where you just rely on the other person and rely on the other person to know how to do something instead of trying to figure it out yourself. And I see that as a huge problem going forward, because we're going to be lacking a lot of the fundamental things that we are going to need to survive, and we are either going to learn how to do them or we're not, you know, and that's going to be trouble for a lot of people in the coming future. But again, David, thank you so much for coming on my show and sharing all this with us. Has been super enlightening, and I appreciate you a lot, brother. And where can people find you if they would like to contact you? Give you a little opportunity here to plug whatever you got going on.
In the Ice Age Conversations podcast, the new Telegram channel, Adapt 2030. Keep abreast of some of the news. While I'm surfing a lot of things doing my videos, I don't use everything that I come across, but I do find some of it interesting enough where I would throw it into a Telegram channel where you might get some discussion going. And, you know, one last thing here. Like I said, we've been set up in society, like they're taking away the trade schools or whatnot, but we still are, it's even more compartmentalized and more in a box than ever. But I think Pink Floyd described it most correctly, just another brick in the wall. It's exactly what we are being programmed to be. Thanks for having me on, Ryder. It was a great talk.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone else for watching and listening, and much love to everyone in the chat. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the YouTube channel out and the algorithm. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notification. The link to my backup video platform on Odyssey is in the description. Hit the follow button over there. You can also catch this episode and any of my other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts too, and you can download them on Spreaker.com directly to your device for free. The links are in the description. Thank you all so much. And again, David, for coming on my show and sharing all of your knowledge. You're welcome back on this channel at any time in the future.